welcome to another episode of the Late Winner Show. Um, today's special episode. I have Jim from the Sports Social podcast to talk about West Ham United. I think they've had a brilliant start to the season, and the way they ended last season, just missing out on the Champions League as well. Continuing their form in coming into the season is amazing to see that. Welcome, Jim. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you very much for having me.
Do you just want to go ahead and introduce your sports social as well a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So I run the Sports Social, which is a sport project based in the UK. We're many things, including audio and audio tech creators, but we also work heavily in podcasts. We have our own podcasts. We have a show called Football Social Daily, which is a daily Premier League show tackling all the news from the top flight over here in England. So all the clubs every day, a different podcast every day. But then we also have a Sports Social podcast network, which is a hub of over 100 different podcasts now that are all part of our network, that we all work together to give unrivaled sports coverage, not just across football, but across a variety of sports. So you can find out all the information on that if you go to our website, which is sport-social.co.uk. You can find the websites and the podcasts and all the news there.
Yeah, I'll definitely leave the links in the description below, and,
Right.
and you guys can check it out. So without any further ado, I think let's just start on West Ham. I think West Ham are fit and firing all because of David Moyes. I think he's done a tremendous job since he's come to West Ham since in December 2019. The squad was not at all doing well, and suddenly he has brought life into the London Stadium. They're top of the table. I mean, technically not top of the table, but
Close enough.
although only 3 games played, but how you think that David Moyes has transformed this team into
Yeah,
what it is today?
I mean, you can't just look at this season to see the evidence of what David Moyes has done. It is since he came in his first spell at West Ham, and I was one of the voices that didn't want David Moyes as our manager. I didn't think he was the right fit for the club. You looked at his record at Real Sociedad, and you looked at what he'd done at Sunderland. Ever since he left Everton, Manchester United was an absolute disaster for him, and it just felt like the wrong appointment and the easy and cheap appointment for West Ham. And West Ham love an easy and love a cheap option. So it didn't feel right at the time, but he's proven me wrong, and he's proven any other disdaining West Ham fans wrong along the journey as well, because I think you have to credit him with much of the success of that football club, because it's certainly not been the backing from the board. The playing squad has gone through a lot of changes, but he's changed the type of players that West Ham bring into their team now, and now it has an identity. And I think that has been keen to West Ham's success. And I've been a West Ham fan for 30 odd years now, probably a bit longer than that. And I've seen a lot of transition at that football club. But over that 30 years, I don't remember us ever having a real identity, other than maybe under Harry Redknapp. We kind of had this kind of spirited underdog as our identity. We had a kind of a foreign legion of players, and there was a never say die attitude. There was a kind of a togetherness. It almost felt like a professional pub team, which isn't the identity you want, but that was kind of what we were landed with. But now I think what David Moyes has done, and we haven't had it for such a long time, is established us in a particular style and with a particular spirit. And we have we have hungry players. We have a team that plays for each other, and we have a team that works incredibly hard. I think probably, and I haven't looked at the stats, but I'd imagine if you looked at kind of the work rates for teams, we wouldn't be too far behind the likes of Leeds and the likes of Liverpool and the likes of Manchester City, who are the teams that work hardest in the Premier League. So, yeah, I mean, massive credit to David Moyes. He's done something really impressive at West Ham to date, and he's done it with very little budget as well, which is even more impressive in this modern age of football.
Yeah, and I think you touched on the work ethic, and even I'm impressed with that because I was reading a couple of stories about like how he did that, and I think coming into this new season, I think he took the team to took them to a place where they actually just partied and just let themselves go out there
Mm.
and not worry about like football. So it's actually good that a manager is trying to gel the team together, and that you can see the results on the pitch. Like everyone's playing with such a good work ethic that they know that what their jobs are supposed to be on the football pitch. Even if you look at Jesse Lingard, who was a forgotten at Manchester United, he came on for a loan for a 6-month loan spell. I think he was tremendous for you guys last season as well.
Yeah, and I think
Uh,
the play, I mean, the togetherness that you mentioned has been a real important part of that success as well, and the spirit that has been built into the football club. The kind of players who play for themselves, and as much as I would have liked to see 𝗬𝗲𝗓 succeed at the football club, he didn't seem to share the same identity as those other players, and he was moved on. And I think
yeah,
when we criticise, and I've been one to criticise the recruitment at West Ham, particularly over the last couple of years, and the lack of transfer spending, I think part of that is the relative meanness, and I use that word sparingly because I kind of think club owners are free to spend what they want. It's their money at the end of the day, but the relative meanness compared to what other teams are playing of the board. But the other thing is David Moyes has been very particular about the type of player that he brings into that football club, not just from the point of view of their technical abilities and their footballing abilities, but also in terms of their personality and judging whether they are a good fit for the group of players. Because you
yeah,
look at the team now and the way they bonded, and when they're on international duty like they are at the moment, so we're recording this during the first batch of World Cup qualifiers, you see the social media posts between the players and they're still communicating and they're still supporting each other. So it's that kind of quite cliched, having a great group of lads is important in football, and we're seeing that on the football pitch at the moment.
yeah. And I think you mentioned something about the transfers as well. Like I think one good thing about this transfer window has been like, and all the transfers has been that he is at the heart of it, and he
Mm-hmm.
knows that what player he wants, and then he gets them. Usually, there's a technical director or sporting director who is managing all these transfers in a lot of clubs. But that's one thing that I really appreciate about West Ham, is that you're giving the manager the full ability and full power that I want this player, and I if I think that this is the player that can gel within the team, that the system or the team that I'm trying to build, uh, I I uh, I want this, and then
Mm.
and he usually gets it. So even and so actually, talking about the transfers, I think there were two new signings on deadline day, Zouma and Vlasic. Zouma obviously came in as a 30 million euro deal from Chelsea. He he did a decent job at Chelsea, but now I think what I saw last season, that Craig Dawson was making a little bit of a lot of, not little bit, not a lot, but a little bit of mistakes at the defense, and even right now, if you see in the games that they've already played, I think they have considered at least 2 goals in every game except the Leicester one. I think they won 4-1
Yeah.
in that game. What do you think Zuma will bring to the team?
Yeah, a few things to unpack there. Firstly, actually, you mentioned director of football. West Ham have just brought in a director of football
Oh,
to
okay.
to manage transfer negotiations. It didn't happen this window. I forget the guy's name. He's just come in, but
Okay.
but the idea of him coming into this club, as you rightly say, it will be David Moyes identifying targets and selecting players. He'll be in charge of the negotiation process, which has been a hugely flawed experience over the
Hmm.
last 18 months in terms of having David Gold and Sullivan handling transfers, because frankly, some of their behaviour in the transfer market has been embarrassing. But in terms of the players we have managed to get over the line, Zouma, I think, is a brilliant signing. I've always been a fan of him at Chelsea. I
Yeah.
think I mean, it's they're almost cliche terms to use again to describe defenders, but big, strong, fast. It's kind of the attributes you want in a centre back, particularly when you're playing a 4-4-2. And I think the only reason that he's been moved out of Chelsea is he isn't as comfortable with the ball at his feet as the likes of Thomas Tuchel would like. And if you're playing a back three, you need ball playing centre backs, whereas West Ham, who are pretty much tied to the 4 at the back formation, although we started with the 5 at the back at the beginning of last season. David Moyes seems to have settled on this, the 4 at the back. I think when you've got that big, strong, throw themselves, put their body in the way defender, and Zouma fits that bill really well. And as you say, Craig Dawson rightly rewarded with a permanent transfer after his performance last season on loan. He was bought in for £4 million or whatever that cost. He deserved that contract, but he has shown himself to be fallible over the last couple of games, particularly in the game against Crystal Palace. He was in some way responsible, definitely for the second goal, arguably for the first goal as well. So I think he's probably showing more what is his true form now, and he'll be a great servant to have in the club. He's a great backup defender to have on your books, but we needed that reliable centre-back to play alongside 𝗕𝗲𝗓, and I think, 100% 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗓 is that man.
Yeah, and I think you guys have definite good set piece takers in name of Cresswell and even Soufal, who provides a lot of good balls in the box. So I think Zouma will definitely be a threat, obviously in the box when taking set pieces. Talking about Vlasic, who who's already had a brief loan spell at Everton, so Everton fans probably might know him much better than at least me. What do you think? And then again, you guys did want you guys had been chasing Jesse Lingard for the entire transfer window. There had been rumors that ultimately he will be signed, and David Moyes again wanted a number 10 just because they are going to play in a European competition, and they wanted that squad depth. What do you think Vlasic brings to the team?
I haven't watched a lot of Russian football, I'll be honest with you. So the last I experienced of Vlasic was his fleeting appearances for Everton, which was
Yeah,
probably 4 years ago, I'd guess.
2017. Yeah.
2017, no, exactly 4 years ago. How about that?
Yeah.
So yeah, around that time. I mean, personally, I think Vlasic has the potential to be a better signing than Jesse Lingard, mainly because of his age. I mean, they're very similar players. They're playing very similar positions, but you've got Vlasic, he's 23. You've got Jesse Lingard, he's 29. They're at completely different ends of their career. I mean, clearly David Moyes has experience with this player. It's a player that he's had his eye on for some time. And I think he has the right attributes to do well in the Premier League. He's fast, he likes to get in behind, but he also is relatively strong and he can hold up the ball and bring other players into the game as well, which is kind of what West Ham need, because we don't just need a number 10, because we've got number 10s. We've got Lanzini can play in that position. We've got Benrahma, who's had a brilliant season so far playing in that number 10 role. Fornells plays really well as a number 10 as well. So we've kind of got that covered. But as you say, in European competition, we need that depth. We need that second option should 𝗕𝗲𝗕𝗏 get injured, who is the only fit senior striker, unbelievably, at the squad at the moment. So I think Vlasic has that flexibility to drop in as the number 10. He can play out on the right as well, I believe. He can also play centre forward. So there's kind of a varying amount of options that he can be used for. And he is at the right stage of his development to kind of have him working with a coach like David Moyes, who seems to be finding his feet again in terms of developing players. So I think it's a great signing. I think it's got the potential to be really good. It's not cost a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, any player is going to cost you 20-30 million now, so he certainly falls into that ballpark, and I've got high hopes for it. My only concern is he isn't a proven goal scorer. He's had a couple of reasonable seasons at CSK Moscow, I think he came in from. But if you look any time previous to that, he's always struggled to get anywhere near double figures for a season in terms of goals. So he's certainly not going to provide our goal scoring answer, but at the same time, he's not there to do that. So I'll be really interested to see how he fits into the squad and how he develops.
Yeah, but you're talking about like how will he fit into the team. The only thing that I'm excited about him is because obviously he has had that brief experience of the Premier League, and then what David Moyes is doing, I'm really excited about that. Like even you saw Jesse Lingard, and as I mentioned before, like he came into the team and he just started fighting, and even Benrahma, like towards the end part of the season where he was where he kind of came into action and he started scoring goals. And then I saw a lot of the preseason games of West Ham, and he was at the heart of it. And you can see in the recent games that that has happened for West Ham as well. So I'm really excited about like how will he gel into the team. Obviously, I don't see him straight away into the team right now. I think he needed again a squad player, just so that he can play in those European games, because obviously you guys play on Thursday, and then again I think you guys will play on Sunday, most probably on every weekend. So I think and the European competition starts in the next 2 weeks or so. So that's a great addition to the team.
Yeah, the other player I'm excited is the other player that came on deadline day. I think Alex Crowell is a
Crowell,
really
yeah.
good addition. He's someone that I've had an eye on for kind of 18 months or so as a potential West Ham signing. And he didn't have a brilliant European Championships. He didn't quite fulfill his potential there, but I don't know many players that did have brilliant European Championships. But I think he was much needed strength and depth in that midfield. It's allowed 𝗕𝗏𝗪, who is one of the youth players at West Ham, who showed really great potential in pre-season, had a really good pre-season. It's allowed him to go out on loan and get a full season of proper men's football under his belt. So this guy's come in, a smart bit of business. He's on kind of a seasons-long loan with an option to buy at the end of it. He's one of those players who could have real resale value if he does do well and he does sign permanently. And he looks like a little bit of yet another Czech diamond. That, I mean, we're going to have a team full of Czech players at this rate at West Ham, but it looks like it could be a really smart acquisition. The only frustration I have with West Ham's transfer business, and I think we did well in this window, is that it was left so late. I don't quite understand why football clubs leave it till deadline day to secure transfers, when surely you want your pre-season, surely you want your 3 weeks training before the season kicks off to acclimatise players. So I know you're probably saving a bit of cash by seeing kind of who's left in the bargain basement when you get to that deadline day period. But as a fan, it's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah,
I'm sure it is.
I think that deadline days are definitely very exciting and nervous at the same time, because you know that you need these players and there's nothing coming out of the club saying that, we're doing some kind of a deal.
Yeah.
So it sometimes becomes interesting, sometimes becomes really, really nervous as well. Talking about West Ham, I mentioned West Ham are in the Europa League, and I'm really excited about it, to see them in a European competition. Do you think that they have the squad to go deep in Europe and also challenge for the top 4 in the Premier League at the same time?
No. I mean that is the challenge. I think we have the squad at the moment. I'd say was probably if you took the Europa League out of it, it would have the potential to do probably well in the Premier League, maybe a top 6 finish, but there just isn't that strength and depth in that team at the moment. We're a few injuries away from a crisis at the club. I mean, you've got no cover for, Aaron Cresswell, if he gets injured. I don't think 𝗕𝗏𝗪 is a natural left back, left wing back, left midfielder, yes, left back, no. You've got 𝗕𝗏𝗪𝗏. There is no, we talk about Vlasic. He is a replacement for 𝗕𝗏𝗪𝗏. And I think, as we saw at the tail end of last season, when 𝗕𝗏𝗪 got injured and Jesse Lingard had to play that front line, you can cope with that for a certain period, but you certainly don't have the bites that you do with a polished, experienced centre forward. And then if you're looking to do that, as you say, Sunday, Thursday, it's just problematic. So I think the squad is just too thin at the moment to fight on both fronts, and it could end up detrimental to both campaigns.
Agreed. I think you guys definitely needed a replacement, not replacement, but an addition to Mikel Antonio.
Yeah.
I think even you mentioned, like, even last season when he got injured, then it goes all haywire when you only won your main striker. And I'm very scared about him, because he is kind of injury prone as well. And then once you start playing Thursday, Sunday, it can take a toll on your body, and then you guys have to travel so far in Europe, and then come back and play a Premier League game, which again, that it becomes really, really intense.
Yeah.
So, just concluding our podcast, let's do a quick rapid fire and ask you about a little more about West Ham. Where will West Ham finish in the Premier League?
I think the optimist in me says 8th. I think would be a realistic and quite a successful season. I don't think we're going to finish in the Europa positions again. I don't think we'll get that. I'm not interested in the Europa Conference either. So if we're not going to get in the Europa League, let's finish 8th. Let's completely get out of that. I think the strain of the other competition and the depth of the squad will slightly hold us back there. So 8th, I think, would be a realistic finish.
8th, okay. How far do you think they will go in the Europa League?
I think we'll get through the group stages. I think we've got a relatively decent group, both in terms of places you want to go and visit to watch football and in terms of the strength of the opposition. So I think we're going to get that far. I mean, once you get through the group stages, then you've got the teams from the Champions League dropping into it, and who knows beyond that. But I mean, getting this far has been West Ham's most successful European campaign for, well, what, 74, I think, was the last time we did well in Europe. So yeah, we've done well to get there. It'd be nice to go deep into the competition, but I think realistically, probably first knockout would be a reasonable target for our first time in Europe for ages.
Okay, awesome. And who will be West Ham United's most important player?
I think it's Declan Rice. Undeniably, Declan Rice. I think last season he was probably our most important player. He's a player we missed hugely when he wasn't available, and over the summer, I've just seen him mature as a player, playing for England in the Euros. Watching the game this week, the Hungary game, I thought he was England's most important player, and he just has an ability to control a game like I haven't seen another player do in a long, long time. He can put his foot on the ball. He can calm a team down. He can reset the pace. He's like a metronome in the middle of the field. And I think that is hugely important for West Ham. And he's also providing us alongside Thomas Souček as the basis from which West Ham can play this relatively expansive, quite exciting attacking football. He allows the likes of 𝗕𝗲𝗓𝗏 and Sid Benrahma and Pablo Fornells to break forward. So I think Declan Rice, it's a really underrated position, that kind of holding midfield. You have to be so disciplined, and you don't often get the credit you deserve because you're not raking 45-yard balls to the corner. You're winning the ball, you're putting your foot in, and you're resetting. It's really disciplined, but also really difficult to read the game in the way he does. So yeah, Declan Rice is vital for me in that West Ham team, and unfortunately, I think it'll be his last season at West Ham.
You touched a very you touched a string there. I did a video I think a month ago about Declan Rice as well. Like, is he worth that 100 million? So obviously this question wasn't planned, but since I have a West Ham United fan, do you think he's a 100 million pound player?
I mean, who's worth 100 million? I think like anything in life, a player is only worth what someone wants to pay for him. And I think the problem for clubs like Chelsea and Manchester United, who covet Declan Rice at the moment, is when a club doesn't want to sell a player, if you want that player, you have to pay what the club who's selling the player wants, if that makes sense. And so to that extent, yes, he is worth 100 million because West Ham are under no pressure at all to sell him. So if another club wants him, they have to pay the asking price. It's as simple as that. So yes, he is worth 100 million pounds in that respect. Personally, I'd be upset if my club spent 100 million pounds on that player, but I'd be upset if my club spent 100 million pounds on any player. And you can't name me many players that have gone for that sort of value that have proved their worth at a football club. Arguably, Virgil van Dijk at 75 million. We've seen his value at Liverpool. Potentially, you'd say he was worth that. Harry Maguire at Manchester United? Nope. Paul Pogba at Manchester United? No, probably not. So it's a really difficult price tag to live up to. What I do think is going to happen is I think Declan Rice is angling for a new contract at West Ham at the moment. I think he should get that new contract. I think he deserves that new contract. And I believe that new contract will have some kind of buyout clause in it. It will have a minimum, whatever the phrase is, minimum transfer fee, a release fee. That's the word I'm looking for. So, which I envisage will be around 80 million, which feels much more reasonable, but still reflects his value for the football team.
Yeah. So as you can see, Jim has already taken a day at me about at Manchester United and saying that the players that we got, they were not actually worth the money that they got. So talking about West Ham United, it ended up being a Manchester United talk as well. So that's great. That's great. I think I have had a wonderful discussion with you. Yeah. And let's end the podcast here. Thank you, Jim, for coming on our podcast and providing your thoughts on West Ham United season so far, and what can we expect from them in the coming future, and some of the signings that they've made, talking about them as well. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel as well, and I'll leave the links in the description below for our Twitter handles and Instagram handles as well. And also do not forget to follow Jim Salveson at the Sports Social on, and I'll leave the descriptions and I'll leave the links in the description below as well for their channel as well. So do check it out if you're interested in any kind of sports podcast as well. Again, thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll definitely invite you for further down the line if West Ham United are playing well or not playing well. We want to do a podcast and learn more about West Ham and know your thoughts as well on that.
No problem. Anytime.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.